The microphone squealed as Malcolm Reed stepped onto the stage at Harriet Tubman Academy. 200 parents filled the auditorium, and every face seemed turned toward him. His daughter Nia stood beside a cardboard bridge, fighting tears beneath the bright lights. Principal Hargrove held a dismissal letter against her clipboard like a verdict. Near the front row, Malcolm's new boss, Camille Lawson, rose in a charcoal suit. She had brought 3 executives from Lawson Civic Engineering, including the man who wanted Malcolm fired. Cameras from a local news station pointed toward the stage. Malcolm placed one hand on Nia's shoulder and faced the room. Before that afternoon ended, he would risk his job to protect her name. Before the week ended, the woman he believed hated fathers like him would risk everything she owned to protect them both. 3 weeks earlier, Malcolm's alarm had sounded at 5:15 inside a narrow Baltimore row house. He silenced it before the second chime, careful not to wake Nia. Rain tapped the bedroom window, and the old radiator knocked without producing much heat. He pulled on work pants, checked the thermostat, then lowered it 2 degrees. The gas bill sat unpaid beneath a grocery circular on the kitchen counter. He packed Nia's lunch with turkey slices, apple wedges, and a last pudding cup. His own lunch was rice and beans left from Sunday. On the refrigerator, 3 magnets held 3 different worries. One secured the electric notice. Another held a permission slip for the science showcase. The third pinned a photograph of Nia's mother, Aaliyah, laughing beside Baltimore's Inner Harbor. Aaliyah had died 4 years earlier after an undetected heart condition stopped her without warning. She had been 31, dancing barefoot while Saturday pancakes burned. Grief had not arrived like thunder for Malcolm. It had become plumbing, school forms, hair appointments, and an empty side of the bed. It lived inside every decision nobody else could make. At 6, he woke Nia with a soft knock and warmed her uniform shirt. She emerged carrying a satin bonnet and one missing sock. At 11, she had Aaliyah's observant eyes and Malcolm's stubborn chin. She noticed a bowl he did not fill for himself. "You need breakfast too," she said. "I ate while packing lunch." Nia looked at the clean skillet, then divided her oatmeal without exposing his lie. Malcolm accepted half because refusing would insult the kindness behind it. They ate while rain crawled down the glass. Nia's science project involved a model bridge with sensors beneath its roadway. She wanted the bridge to warn neighborhoods before dangerous structural failures. Malcolm had helped with soldering, but the design belonged entirely to her. Every evening, she tested tiny weights and recorded the changing voltage. "Showcase is Friday at 3, she reminded him. "I wrote it on 3 calendars. Your new boss writes over calendars." Malcolm smiled, though the joke landed near a real fear. Lawson Civic Engineering had recently hired Camille Lawson as Chief Operating Officer. Her late father founded the company, but nobody treated her appointment as sentimental. She had closed 2 failing divisions during her first month. She could silence a conference room by placing her phone face down. Malcolm worked as a field systems coordinator at Lawson's East Baltimore office. The title sounded cleaner than the job. He inspected sensors beneath bridges, corrected rush drawings, and handled emergencies everyone else discovered too late. His salary covered the mortgage, barely, but Aaliyah's medical debt still followed him. The school charged nothing for the showcase, yet Nia needed presentation boards and replacement sensors. Malcolm had purchased them with money intended for new brake pads. He drove slowly through the rain and whispered apologies whenever the sedan shuddered. At 7:20, he walked Nia through the school entrance. She slipped her hand into his before crossing the crowded lobby. Some children stopped holding their parents' hands years earlier. Nia still did it when she sensed he needed courage. "Friday at 3, she said again. "Front row, baby girl." He watched her disappear upstairs, then hurried toward the harbor office. He did not know Camille had scheduled a mandatory review for Friday afternoon. He also did not know her reasons would hurt before they made sense. Camille Lawson arrived at work in a black company sedan at precisely 7:50. She was 37, tall, composed, and visibly in command of every doorway. Her natural hair curved into a smooth, shoulder-length bob. A gold watch flashed whenever she turned a page. Employees lowered their voices around her, although she never requested silence. Malcolm first met her during an operations briefing about the Hanover Street Bridge contract. He arrived 30 seconds late after speaking with Nia's school nurse. Camille stopped mid-sentence as he entered. "Mr. Reed, our public contracts begin at the announced time," she said. "Understood. My daughter needed medication authorization. Personal explanations do not recover public trust. Sit down." 20 people heard the correction. Malcolm sat beside his supervisor, Terrence Cole, who smiled without warmth. Terrence had pursued the operations director position Camille now controlled. He considered Malcolm useful enough for dangerous assignments and disposable enough for blame. Camille reviewed delayed inspections, budget overruns, and missing sensor reports. When Malcolm explained that faulty procurement created mismatched components, she interrupted him. "Bring evidence, not family stories or field folklore." The words struck harder than their volume. Malcolm had offered no family story, yet she joined both weaknesses together. Around the table, eyes dropped toward notebooks. Terrence leaned back, satisfied. Afterward, Malcolm found a new attendance policy in his inbox. Field coordinators needed executive approval for schedule changes. 2 planned appointments for Nia now required Camille's signature. By lunch, coworkers whispered that the new boss intended to remove parents who lacked total availability. Camille strengthened that impression during a Friday town hall. She spoke about discipline, sacrifice, and eliminating exceptions. Her eyes moved across the staff before resting briefly on Malcolm. "This company cannot become a shelter for divided priorities," she said. Malcolm felt every parent in the room become still. He had heard similar language during interviews. Employers praised devotion until a child developed a fever. Single fathers received an extra suspicion. As though care was borrowed work, they performed badly. That afternoon, Camille rejected his request to leave early for Nia's science showcase. Her email contained one sentence: "Attendance at the quarterly risk review is mandatory without exception." Malcolm walked to her glass office, carrying the printed request. Through the door, he saw her studying an old photograph. A black boy of perhaps 8 grinned beside her on a playground. She slid the frame into a drawer before inviting him inside. "I submitted this before the review was scheduled," Malcolm said. "The client moved its deadline. My daughter presents at 3. Her mother is gone. There is nobody else." Something tightened across Camille's face, then vanished behind professional calm. "Mr. Reed, loss does not reduce responsibility. I learned that personally. Then you understand why I need 90 minutes. I understand promises can become expensive. Your request remains denied." Malcolm left before anger chose his language. He arranged for his sister Denise to attend, although she worked across town at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Nia accepted the news too quietly during dinner. "The bridge still works without an audience," she said. "I'm trying to change the schedule." "You always try." Her kindness made failure feel heavier. Malcolm washed dishes after she slept and stared at Aaliyah's photograph. She had once told him that children remembered who arrived, not who intended to arrive. He promised the silent kitchen he would find a way. Pressure tightened the following week. Terrence assigned Malcolm 6 overdue inspection sites across Baltimore. The route was impossible within normal hours. Missing the schedule would create grounds for discipline. Completing it would consume every evening before Nia's showcase. Malcolm brought Nia to the office after her robotics club ended Tuesday. She sat inside an unused conference room, assembling her bridge while he completed reports. Camille passed a glass wall and stopped. "Children are not permitted in secure work areas," she said. Her aftercare closed early. She is supervised and away from project files. Rules cannot depend on your emergency. Nia looked down at her circuit board. Malcolm lowered his voice. "Speak to me outside, please." Camille glanced toward Nia, and a flicker of regret crossed her features. She stepped into the hallway, but several employees had already turned to watch. "I will finish within 20 minutes, Malcolm said. "You will leave now?" "Tomorrow, Human Resources will document the violation." Terrence emerged carrying coffee and enjoyed the slow humiliation. He asked whether Malcolm needed help understanding childcare benefits. Malcolm ignored him, packed Nia's project, and thanked the receptionist who held the elevator. Inside the parking garage, Nia walked close but did not take his hand. "Was I bad at your job?" she said. Malcolm crouched until they were eye level. "You are not bad anywhere. Adults sometimes make rules without seeing people. Your boss saw me. Seeing somebody takes more than looking." He refused to call Camille cruel in front of his daughter. Nia deserved language that preserved her faith without denying what happened. They bought hot chocolate from a gas station and finished his reports at home. Nia fell asleep beside the cardboard bridge shortly after midnight. The next morning, Human Resources placed a warning in Malcolm's file. Camille signed it. Terrence copied half the department on a revised coverage schedule, showing Malcolm assigned every Friday emergency rotation. Nobody called it punishment. Nobody needed to. Yet Camille's hostility contained strange contradictions. She questioned Malcolm's judgment in meetings, then quietly approved his redesigned sensor layout. She denied flexible hours, then remained alone in her office until nearly midnight. Once, Malcolm saw her staring at Nia's forgotten purple hair clip. Camille held it carefully before placing it inside an envelope. 2 days later, the envelope appeared on Malcolm's desk with no note. On Thursday morning, a city inspector reported unstable readings beneath the Preston Street overpass. Terrence dismissed them as rain interference. Camille ordered an immediate field review and sent Malcolm because his name appeared on the original sensor map. Cold water dripped through concrete seams while trucks rolled overhead. Malcolm climbed the access ladder and studied the vibration patterns. The sensors were functioning correctly. A steel bearing had shifted less than half an inch, transferring weight toward a weakened joint. Terrence demanded a remote reset to clear the warning. Malcolm refused. "That alarm is the only honest thing in this system," he said. He closed one traffic lane without waiting for executive approval. Commuters shouted while police lights spread across wet pavement. The decision cost Lawson Civic thousands in delay penalties. It also exposed corroded anchor plates hidden behind a recent cosmetic repair. Camille arrived wearing boots beneath her tailored coat. She climbed the service stairs without complaint and examined Malcolm's measurements. Terrence followed, insisting the closure was reckless. Malcolm placed a wrench against the bearing plate. The metal shifted under ordinary pressure. "Another heavy truck could move this joint," he said. "Then the deck drops." Camille studied the wrench, the traffic above, and Malcolm's steady hands. "Close both lanes," she ordered. "I will call the city." Terrence protested about penalties and public attention. "Send every complaint to me," Camille said. For 4 hours, Malcolm directed temporary supports while engineers confirmed the danger. His raincoat soaked through. He never raised his voice. He placed workers where falling debris could not reach them, then crawled beneath the worst section himself. Camille watched him solve problems her senior managers had debated for months. She saw him explain each decision to frightened apprentices without belittling them. When one worker froze on the ladder, Malcolm climbed down beside him. He spoke calmly until the young man could move. By evening, the bridge was stable and nobody had been injured. The city inspector estimated Malcolm's closure prevented a serious collapse. Terrence congratulated the team as though he had supported the decision. Camille found Malcolm washing rust from his hands beside a service truck. "Your field judgment was exceptional," she said. "The evidence was exceptional. I only believed it. You were right to close the road. Will that remove the warning from my file?" Camille became still. Praise had cost her nothing, and he had measured its value accurately. "The childcare violation was separate," she said. "Everything becomes separate when fairness costs something." Malcolm walked away before she answered. Camille remained beneath the overpass while rain gathered along her collar. For the first time, authority could not protect her from recognizing herself. Friday arrived bright and cold. Malcolm wore Aaliyah's favorite blue tie beneath his work jacket. He took Nia to school with the bridge secured across the back seat. She had rebuilt one railing after the late office night crushed it. At the entrance, she handed him a paper invitation decorated with silver marker. His name filled the center in careful block letters. Keep it even if you cannot come, she said. I am coming. The risk review began at 1:30 inside Lawson's largest conference room. City officials joined by video, and board members occupied the front seats. Camille presented the Preston Street findings and credited Malcolm by name. Terrence's jaw tightened. At 2:20, Malcolm's portion ended. He closed his laptop and stood. The review continues until 4, Camille said. My work is complete, and I informed you weeks ago. Leaving will be treated as insubordination. Every board member watched. Terrence slowly removed his glasses, encouraging the spectacle. Malcolm thought about the electric bill, the worn brakes, and Nia's quiet division of breakfast. Losing his job would not punish only him. Then he remembered the invitation inside his pocket. A child could survive fewer things than adults pretended. One was believing she mattered only after every important person finished speaking. Document it accurately, Malcolm said. I kept my promise to my daughter. He left at 2:27. The elevator seemed painfully slow. He drove through downtown traffic while the steering wheel shook beneath his hands. At 2:58, he entered Harriet Tubman Academy's auditorium and found Denise waving from the third row. Nia saw him and forgot her prepared introduction. Her entire face opened with relief. Malcolm sat front and center, breathing hard, his company badge still clipped to his belt. The fifth-grade teams presented projects on safer neighborhoods. Nia's bridge used inexpensive strain sensors and colored warning lights. She explained that old bridges often showed small changes before dangerous failures. Malcolm recognized language from their kitchen conversations, but her reasoning exceeded his guidance. During the demonstration, Terrence entered through the rear doors with Camille and 3 company leaders. He had persuaded the board to visit the showcase because Lawson sponsored the school's technology grant. The surprise visit offered good publicity after the bridge closure. It also placed Malcolm's disobedience beneath a public spotlight. Camille had learned their destination only inside the car. When she saw Nia on stage, she understood what Malcolm had chosen. Shame moved through her before she could organize it. Nia placed small weights across the bridge. Green lights turned yellow, then red. Applause rose as her warning buzzer sounded. Terrence approached Principal Hargrove and whispered while the next student prepared. Within minutes, the principal called Nia back toward the microphone. She held printed photographs of Nia working inside Lawson's conference room. Terrence had sent them from security footage. He claimed Nia received prohibited professional assistance and accessed confidential engineering materials. The applause faded into restless murmurs. Principal Hargrove explained that showcase rules required independent student work. Until the matter was reviewed, Nia's project would be disqualified. The Technology Grant Committee would also reconsider her summer scholarship. Nia stood beneath the lights while adults examined her like damaged merchandise. One parent raised a phone. Another whispered that the bridge looked too advanced for a child. Terrence remained beside Camille with practiced concern. Malcolm reached the stage as Principal Hargrove produced a temporary dismissal letter. He did not grab the microphone or shout. He stood between Nia and the cameras, blocking the closest lens with his body. Please lower your phones, he said. She is 11 years old. The room quieted unevenly. Malcolm removed his company badge and placed it inside his pocket. He told Nia to look at him, not the audience. You built this bridge, he said. I did. Then nobody's confusion changes your work. Principal Hargrove insisted the evidence required immediate action. Terrence added that Malcolm had repeatedly mixed personal responsibilities with secure company operations. His voice carried just enough for nearby reporters. That was when Camille rose from the front row. The auditorium expected her to confirm Terrence's accusation. Malcolm expected the same. She walked toward the stage, each measured step deepening his certainty. Camille stopped beside Nia's bridge and examined its exposed circuitry. Then she turned toward the Lawson executives. Mr. Cole, you implied this design uses confidential company property, she said. The child developed it inside our office. The conflict is obvious. Camille asked Nia for permission before lifting the model. Nia nodded without smiling. Camille turned the underside toward the audience. "These are $12 hobby sensors sold at electronics stores," she said. "Our bridge system uses sealed industrial accelerometers. The designs share no protected components." Terrence claimed Malcolm could still have supplied professional calculations. Camille looked toward him, but Malcolm did not defend himself. He was watching Nia's hands tremble. Nia reached for the weights. She reset the bridge, moved one sensor, and invited Principal Hargrove to choose any load pattern. The principal placed weights unevenly near the center. Nia predicted which warning light would change first. She explained the circuit path, recalibrated the threshold, then proved her answer. No adult prompted her. No document guided her. Her competence traveled through her hands before her voice caught up. The room became silent enough to hear the tiny warning buzzer. Malcolm asked why she placed the second sensor near the outer support. "Because twisting hides from center measurements," Nia said. "I taught you that principle. Did I design the circuit? No. You kept burning the first resistor." A few parents laughed softly, and tension released around the child. Nia almost smiled. Principal Hargrove lowered the dismissal letter. Camille turned toward the cameras. "This student's work is her own," she said. "Lawson Civic Engineering will provide every record needed to prove it." Terrence reminded her that an internal investigation remained active. Camille looked directly at him. "An investigation will begin today. It will examine why security images of a child reached reporters." The room shifted again. Terrence's confident expression broke for a fraction of a second. Camille had not merely defended Nia's circuit. She had identified the machinery arranged against her. Principal Hargrove restored Nia's eligibility and apologized before the audience. Nia received first place, though celebration felt impossible after public suspicion. Malcolm accepted the ribbon for safekeeping. He guided her away from reporters through a side corridor. Camille followed but stopped several feet away. "Nia, I am sorry," she said. Nia pressed against Malcolm's coat. Malcolm's expression remained controlled. "She has heard enough adult words today," he said. Camille accepted the boundary. She handed him the silver invitation, which had slipped from his pocket near the stage. Then she returned to the auditorium to face consequences he could not yet see. By Saturday morning, video from the showcase had spread across Baltimore. One clip showed Malcolm shielding Nia from cameras. Another showed Camille challenging Terrence. Headlines accused Lawson Civic of exploiting a school partnership to punish an employee. City council members demanded answers about the Preston Street contract. The Lawson board called an emergency meeting. Board Chairman Ellis Grant instructed Camille to describe the incident as a misunderstanding. Terrence had already submitted a complaint alleging Malcolm violated security, attendance, and chain of command policies. He also questioned Camille's judgment during the bridge closure. Camille sat at the long walnut table while 11 directors discussed reputational exposure. Nobody discussed Nia's face beneath the auditorium lights. Ellis proposed terminating Malcolm for insubordination and placing Terrence on administrative leave. The company could then announce neutrality during an independent review. "You want the only person who acted correctly removed," Camille said. "I want the company protected," Ellis replied. "From a father attending his daughter's school event. From executives who make emotional exceptions." The phrase opened an old room inside Camille. 12 years earlier, her younger brother Isaiah had been raising his son alone. He worked maintenance nights at one of her father's properties. When his child became sick, supervisors repeatedly denied schedule changes. Isaiah drove exhausted after a double shift and died on Interstate 695. Camille had blamed the supervisors, the company, and eventually Isaiah. Blaming him offered an illusion of control. If his divided priorities caused a crash, discipline could protect everyone else. She built her career around never needing an exception and punished need whenever it resembled him. The photograph in her desk showed Isaiah's son, Jordan, before the crash. Camille had raised Jordan afterward with money, schools, and carefully managed distance. He was now 20, attending college in Philadelphia. He answered her calls politely, but never brought his troubles home. Malcolm's request had not encountered simple cruelty. It had struck an untreated wound fortified by authority. The explanation did not excuse the damage. Camille understood that clearly now. She refused Ellis's proposal. The chairman warned that her employment agreement allowed removal for conduct harming government contracts. Camille asked the corporate secretary to record her objection word for word. Meanwhile, Malcolm spent Saturday repairing Nia's confidence rather than his career. He made pancakes, burned the first batch, and played Aaliyah's favorite records. Nia left her blue ribbon inside a kitchen drawer. When Denise called it unfair, Malcolm stepped onto the porch before answering. "She cannot learn that achievement prevents cruelty," he said. "She can learn cruelty does not define achievement." His mortgage payment was due Monday. Human Resources had suspended him with pay, but the letter allowed conversion to unpaid status. Malcolm updated his resume while Nia watched cartoons. Every bullet point felt smaller than the life depending upon it. Camille arrived at the row house shortly after 4. She had removed her company pin and carried no assistant, flowers, or polished statement. Malcolm met her on the porch and kept the door nearly closed. "I came to explain what happens Monday," she said. "If it involves my termination, send it in writing. The board intends to fire you. I intend to stop them. You signed the warning they will use." "Yes." The absence of excuses made him listen, though it did not soften him. Camille described Isaiah, the denied shifts, and the crash. Her voice remained steady until she mentioned Jordan's polite distance. "I treated your responsibilities like evidence against you," she said. "That was not caution. It was fear wearing authority." Malcolm looked through the narrow doorway. Nia sat on the stairs, hearing everything. "Your fear entered my daughter's school," he said. "I know. An apology cannot remove it." Camille explained her plan. She would release the security audit, reverse the parent attendance policy, and place her own position before the board. She had also contacted an outside investigator regarding Terrence's conduct. "Do it because it is right," Malcolm said. "Do not do it to make us forgive you." "I will." Nia appeared behind him holding 2 burnt pancake edges wrapped in a napkin. She studied Camille for several seconds. "Can you keep one promise?" Nia said. Camille lowered herself slightly, though she did not step closer. "I can keep the next one." Nia extended 1 pancake edge through the doorway. "Come Monday, even if people are mad." Camille accepted it carefully. "I will be there." That simple exchange unsettled Malcolm more than any apology. Nia had not offered forgiveness. She had established a test with a time and place. Monday's board meeting began at 9 inside Lawson Civic's downtown headquarters. Reporters waited across Pratt Street. Employees received a live stream link, and Malcolm watched from his kitchen with Nia beside him. Her school had permitted an excused absence after the showcase ordeal. Ellis Grant opened with assurances about integrity. He announced that personnel matters would remain confidential. Then Camille interrupted the prepared statement. "Confidentiality cannot become shelter for institutional harm," she said. She released the conference room access logs showing Nia never entered protected systems. She displayed procurement records proving the child's components came from a retail store. Then she played an internal voicemail from Terrence instructing security to send images through a private address. Terrence claimed the voicemail concerned grant compliance. Camille produced messages showing he contacted a freelance reporter before speaking with the school. His purpose was not compliance. He wanted Malcolm publicly discredited before the board reviewed Preston Street. Ellis called for executive session. Camille refused to stop the live stream. "Mr. Reed's discipline was made visible," she said. "The correction will be equally visible." She withdrew every warning connected to Malcolm's caregiving duties. She announced paid family emergency hours for all employees, including contractors. The policy would be administered independently, preventing supervisors from weaponizing approvals. Then she addressed her own role. She acknowledged denying Malcolm's timely request and publicly questioning his priorities. She did not mention grief as mitigation. She named the choices plainly and accepted responsibility. The board threatened to remove her. Camille placed a signed resignation letter on the table, effective only if directors refused the reforms and Malcolm's reinstatement. She also pledged her annual performance bonus to fund 3 years of family emergency coverage while budgets adjusted. It was costly in ways an apology could never imitate. Her title, income, and inheritance influence stood on one side. Truth stood on the other. Ellis recessed the meeting. The live stream remained active, showing empty chairs and Camille sitting alone. 40 minutes passed. Employees began posting their own stories about denied emergencies. A city contract officer announced that Lawson's compliance status depended upon corrective action. The directors returned at 11:12. They accepted Terrence's termination, Malcolm's reinstatement, and Camille's reforms. They censured Camille and removed her authority over personnel decisions for 6 months. Her bonus pledge remained voluntary and binding. Camille did not celebrate. She looked toward the camera. "Nia, I said I would come Monday," she said. "I am here." Nia closed the laptop without smiling. Then she returned the blue ribbon to her backpack. The gesture was small, but Malcolm understood it. She was ready to carry her accomplishment again. Malcolm returned to Lawson on Tuesday beneath attention he never wanted. Co-workers applauded when he entered the operations floor. He raised one hand, thanked them, and asked about the Preston Street repairs. Dignity required no victory speech. Camille met him in a conference room with Human Resources Council present. His reinstatement included restored leave, back pay protections, and authority over a new structural monitoring unit. He read every page before signing. The promotion existed in Terrence's draft budget, Camille said. He planned to give it elsewhere. "I will accept if the selection process is documented. It will be. 3 external engineers will review it." The panel chose Malcolm after a technical assessment. His solution for the Preston Street Bridge became the center of the interview, but he refused credit belonging to his crew. That refusal impressed the panel more than polished answers. Institutional repair moved slower than public scandal. The school board reviewed how Principal Hargrove handled accusations against children. Lawson hired a privacy specialist and prohibited security footage from leaving internal investigations. Camille attended every corrective meeting, including those where parents criticized her directly. She did not hide behind assistants. She listened, took notes, and returned with completed actions. When one father described losing wages during his son's asthma attack, she revised the policy to cover hourly workers immediately. Her changes could not undo Isaiah's death. They could prevent his story from repeating beneath another name. Malcolm remained cautious. Respect returned before warmth, and warmth returned before trust. He and Camille worked together on the new monitoring unit without discussing the strange current beneath their conversations. She valued his patience with field crews. He valued her willingness to make decisions after hearing unwelcome facts. 2 months later, Baltimore suffered 3 days of freezing rain. Sensors along the Preston Street overpass reported unusual vibration shortly before midnight. Malcolm drove to the site while Denise stayed with Nia. Camille arrived 10 minutes later, carrying coffee and wearing the same practical boots. They found ice accumulation, changing the load across temporary supports. Malcolm coordinated salt crews, while Camille secured emergency city authorization. Neither needed to defend the other's presence. They worked until dawn beneath orange lamps and a silver sky. After the road reopened, Camille handed Malcolm coffee without asking how he took it. 1 cream, no sugar. He noticed she had remembered from a meeting weeks earlier. "Jordan called me yesterday," she said. "Your nephew. He asked for help changing his major. Usually he tells me after decisions. What changed? I told him I was learning not to punish people for needing me." Malcolm watched ice melt along the concrete barrier. Camille's authority had once appeared effortless. Now he understood the labor beneath her control and the loneliness beneath that labor. "Nia asks whether you still have the pancake," he said. Camille opened her phone and showed a photograph of the burnt edge inside a freezer bag. She had written Monday across the label. Malcolm laughed before he could stop himself. The sound surprised them both. "That might be excessive," he said. "Your daughter conducts strict audits." The first hint of romance entered without permission or announcement. It lived inside remembered coffee, exhausted laughter, and the safety of being correctly seen. Neither named it beside the bridge. The public story did not settle as quickly as their private understanding. A regional business magazine published a profile calling Camille the executive who chose family over profit. The headline made her uneasy because it reduced Malcolm and Nia to scenery behind her decision. Lawson's communications director wanted photographs of all three beside the repaired bridge. Camille rejected the campaign before Malcolm ever heard about it. Ellis Grant responded by limiting her access to government clients. He assigned those meetings to Victor Sloan, a polished vice president from the Washington office. Victor was black, ambitious, and skilled at making self-interest resemble calm concern. He had dated Camille for nearly 2 years before she ended their engagement. He returned to Baltimore, claiming the board needed stability. Victor visited Malcolm's new unit on a Tuesday afternoon. He praised the sensor program, admired Nia's design, then closed the office door. "You have gained unusual influence with Camille," he said. "I report through documented channels. Documentation is not the influence concerning the board." Malcolm understood the accusation. Victor believed Camille's choices came from attraction rather than conscience. The suggestion insulted her judgment and threatened Malcolm's credibility at once. Her decisions survived an external investigation, Malcolm said. "Mine can survive one too." Victor smiled as though Malcolm had confirmed something. 2 days later, an anonymous complaint reached the city ethics office. It alleged Camille created Malcolm's unit as personal compensation and diverted public funds toward an unqualified employee. The complaint triggered another review. This time, Malcolm refused to let Camille protect him through executive force. He assembled inspection records, interview scores, and every design revision. He asked the outside engineering panel to publish its evaluation method. His team recreated the Preston Street diagnosis using blinded data before city auditors. Malcolm stood at the back of the testing room while 3 engineers examined vibration patterns. They reached the same conclusion he had reached beneath freezing rain. One auditor intentionally inserted false sensor noise. Malcolm's filtering method identified it without hiding real structural movement. "Noise is inconsistent," he explained. "Damage tells the same story from different places." The sentence traveled beyond engineering. Camille heard it from the observation room and wrote it inside her notebook. The ethics office cleared Malcolm completely. Its report found the hiring process more rigorous than Lawson's standard executive appointments. Victor's access badge appeared in metadata attached to the anonymous documents, although investigators could not prove he submitted them. Ellis quietly transferred him back to Washington. Malcolm disliked the quiet ending. Public accusations had received public attention, while weak accountability disappeared inside administration. He raised the issue during a board compliance meeting and asked for a rule requiring disclosure when executives influenced ethics complaints. Camille supported the proposal without mentioning Victor's history with her. Ellis resisted until 2 city officials endorsed it. The policy passed by 1 vote. Malcolm left without looking toward Camille for approval. He had not defended her or repaid a debt. He had improved a system that failed them both. That evening, Camille found him in the loading bay checking equipment cases. She told him about the rejected magazine photographs. "You could have asked us," Malcolm said. "I knew the answer." Knowing for people can become another kind of control. Camille absorbed the correction without retreating behind rank. "You are right. I should have asked." Malcolm set down his checklist. The answer would still have been no. Her laugh echoed across the concrete bay. It was the first time he heard it at work. A nearby technician glanced over, surprised that Camille Lawson possessed such a sound. The following weekend, Jordan visited Baltimore unexpectedly. He arrived at Camille's apartment, carrying laundry and suspicion. News clips had shown an aunt he barely recognized. She had always solved family trouble with tuition payments and short instructions. Now she was admitting fault before strangers. Camille invited Malcolm and Nia for lunch, then immediately regretted combining fragile relationships. Malcolm nearly declined. Nia wanted to meet the boy from the photograph, though she understood he was now a grown man. Jordan was broad-shouldered, quiet, and careful with affection. He watched Camille burn garlic bread while Nia described her bridge. His reserve softened when Nia asked whether his father had liked science. He liked taking things apart, Jordan said. Putting them together was less successful. Camille brought Isaiah's old toolbox from a closet. She had preserved it unopened for 12 years. Jordan lifted a scratched ratchet and laughed at initials carved into the handle. The laugh resembled something Camille remembered from childhood. Malcolm led Nia toward the balcony, giving them privacy without announcing it. Through the glass, he saw Camille finally tell Jordan the full truth about his father's denied schedule requests. She did not protect Lawson Civic or herself. Jordan's anger arrived quietly. Camille remained seated and received it. Later, Jordan joined Malcolm outside. Traffic moved below them along Charles Street. "She changed because of you," Jordan said. "She changed because she stopped lying to herself." That sounds generous. It is accurate. People should own their worst choices and their better ones. Jordan studied him, then nodded. Before leaving, he hugged Camille with one arm. It was brief and awkward. She cried only after the elevator doors closed. Malcolm did not rush to comfort her. He sat nearby while Nia searched the kitchen for dessert. Sometimes dignity meant allowing grief to cross a room at its own pace. When Camille reached for his hand, he held it without promising more than that moment. Spring brought warmer evenings and the annual city engineering fair. Nia qualified with an improved bridge system that sent warning messages to a tablet. She invited Camille using another silver card. This time, Camille requested personal leave 6 weeks early and copied nobody beyond the required administrator. At the fair, she arrived 20 minutes early wearing jeans and a green sweater. She carried no company badge. Nia inspected her empty hands. "No work phone," Nia said. Camille showed that it was powered off inside her bag. "Good," Nia replied. "You can hold the extra weights." The assignment placed Camille behind the table for 2 hours. She followed Nia's instructions and avoided explaining anything to judges. Malcolm watched them negotiate where each weight belonged. Nia corrected Camille twice, and Camille thanked her both times. Afterward, the three walked toward Lexington Market for sandwiches. Nia moved ahead to examine a mural. Camille and Malcolm slowed near the corner. "She trusted me with a heavy box," Camille said. "That was another audit. Did I pass?" She did not take it back. Camille smiled. Without the suit and guarded office, she seemed younger and less certain. Malcolm found that uncertainty more beautiful than her command. Their first dinner happened a month later, though neither initially called it a date. Camille invited Malcolm to discuss a community bridge workshop. He chose a small Ethiopian restaurant near Mount Vernon because Aaliyah had loved its warm spices. Halfway through the meal, he realized grief was seated with them but no longer blocking the chair. He told Camille about Aaliyah's terrible singing and fearless dancing. Camille listened without shrinking from another woman's memory. She told him Isaiah collected old sneakers and hated mayonnaise. They laughed over the ordinary details that death could not make sacred. "I spent years turning grief into rules," Camille said. "Rules feel safer than people. People are harder. They are also warmer." Outside, summer rain polished the pavement. Camille opened an umbrella, and Malcolm stepped beneath it. Their shoulders touched during the walk to his car. Neither moved away. He did not kiss her that night. Attraction deserved time after power had caused harm. Camille understood without resentment. She sent one message after reaching home, thanking him for trusting her with Aaliyah's stories. Trust grew through repetition. Camille arrived when she promised. Malcolm disagreed with her, without expecting punishment. Nia watched both patterns carefully. She invited Camille to Saturday pancakes, then assigned her responsibility for the unburned batch. One Saturday in October, morning light filled Malcolm's kitchen. The gas bill was current, though the radiator still knocked. Nia measured flour, while Camille stood at the stove, wearing an apron over soft gray clothes. Malcolm sliced apples beside Aaliyah's photograph. Camille turned the first pancake too early, folding it across the spatula. Nia examined the damage with serious disappointment. "You have management skills," she said. "Cooking needs more evidence." Malcolm laughed so hard he dropped an apple slice. Camille pointed the spatula toward him, pretending offense. The kitchen held no cameras, directors, or waiting explanations. It held butter, cinnamon, and 3 people learning a gentler routine. After breakfast, Nia carried her plate to the sink without being asked. She paused beside Camille and placed the old blue ribbon in her hand. "You can keep this during my next fair," she said. "I did not want to bend." Camille looked toward Malcolm before answering. He gave no signal. This belonged entirely to Nia. "I will protect it," Camille said. "I know." Nia ran upstairs for her shoes. Camille held the ribbon as though it weighed more than any company title. Malcolm stepped closer, leaving enough space for choice. "That sounds like a passing audit," he said. "I was hoping for written confirmation." "She charges extra for paperwork." Camille smiled, then rested her head briefly against his shoulder. Malcolm felt peace before desire, and that order mattered. He kissed her forehead, slowly enough that either of them could reconsider. Outside, Baltimore buses sighed along the wet street. A neighbor swept leaves from her steps. Somewhere upstairs, Nia searched loudly for shoes placed beside her bed. Nothing about the morning looked extraordinary. Malcolm had once believed love proved itself through dramatic rescue. Loss taught him otherwise. Love was the person who arrived after being told arrival would cost something. It was the father who left a boardroom before permission became possible. It was the child who offered one burnt pancake, then waited for behavior to answer. Camille set the ribbons safely beside Aaliyah's photograph. She did not replace anyone, and nobody asked her to. She simply joined the living with humility, carrying what they trusted her to hold. When Nia thundered downstairs, Malcolm handed Camille her coat. Their fingers remained together for one quiet second. Then the 3 stepped into the clear October morning, not healed from every wound, but no longer governed by them. They walked toward the neighborhood fair with dignity intact, trust growing, and enough warmth to begin.